is back. Welcome back to a brand new season of Flashback Review. I'm J77, and being that it's October, being that it is a Halloween theme, I'm going to start with most of my films that has suspense or horror. Mix it up this time around, and I might as well start off with a film that introduced me to Norman Bates, and it's nothing the original Psycho. The Psycho film that I saw was on video. This one I saw with my mom. Yeah, ironically, I was little, and I saw Psycho with my mom at that time. That is Psycho 2, taking place nearly 2 decades after the events of the first film. There's a lot to be said about this movie. This movie pretty much did not have the blessing of a lot of people. It's particularly for those who felt that the first one should be left alone and don't go any further than that. In fact, this film was deemed by a lot of critics at the time to be an absolute failure, that it was never work, it would never capture the magic of Alfred Hitchcock in terms of what he had accomplished when he introduced us to Norman Bates and his not so up there world, which became infamous for doing the first film. This film did not capture Albert Hitchcock's magic. At the same time, it didn't need to capture it. I think this film was well aware that it would never top what Hitchcock has accomplished, and he accomplished a great deal for this film at the time. This film did not have a lot of support. And that film just basically was running with a gamble, and that gamble was Albert Hitchcock was putting all his eggs in one basket to get this film done. This film is pretty much the same thing, only this time the studios was dead set on making this, despite a lot of people's disapproval of making it. It has the support of not only Anthony Perkins, but some of the other original cast who came back to do this sequel. And this film theme is suspense, and in many ways is also is horror, but it's also about the price of revenge, the price of not letting things go. And this is something that is echoed throughout this film, which made the film's ending um, very suspenseful, very shocking, and also very satisfying, which led to the third film of the series. Let's simply put, Norman Bates is trying to rebuild his life. He returns to the base motel against his parole officer's approval, against the people who was trying to help him, and he's just basically want to rebuild. At first, he doesn't want to restart the hotel. He's actually working at a diner, but his past always seems to come back to haunt him. People are tormenting him. People who knows his case is reminding him in many cruel ways, and this pretty much opened up some very strong demons that he still is coping with. One of the main things about the film that also brings out is that somebody is trying to drive him mad, and we are not too sure what it is. Someone is actually is trying to get to his head, and this is something of a running theme throughout the film. Another thing that's going on is a young girl who happens to move in, who is aware of Norman Bates' past, but is willing to accept him. For what it is, even though at first she wasn't too sure about him. But she able to stay with him, and in that she too sees that there's something different going on. This, however, led to some other chains of events. Murders and disappearances started to happen, and at first it seemed like it was Norman who was doing the killing, but it turns out there's someone else who also has a hidden agenda behind the murders, and this led to a lot of stuff happening. One, the young girl who had moved in isn't what she claimed to be. Two, the victim's family members' refusal to let the past go, their thirst for revenge, has also led them to do some things which awoken some demons in Norman's past. And three, it brings the mystery of, if Norman's mother is really dead and Norman is not the one doing the killing, who's doing the killing? Somebody's doing it, and this is where a lot of stuff started to open up where maybe Norman's mother wasn't his mother at all. This led to a lot of things that led a lot of people scratching their head, and also led to keep to something that I didn't think was possible with this movie, building up suspense of what may or may not happen. This is a film that I enjoyed. I actually liked this sequel. It's one of the better sequels, especially in horror and suspense, that you're probably gonna get. And to me, they never really match the style of this film after this. If those were saw 3 and 4, you know what I'm getting at when I say that. But two to me, it worked for a lot of reasons. One, the connection between the first film and the second film is definitely there, even though it was years since we have seen a cycle film. The connection with the stars, the characters, and their motivation behind what they do pretty much honors the first film. By the same time, doing their own thing in the second film and keeping us in the edge of our seat. I actually did not know how this film was going to end. I actually did not know how this is going to turn out, because everything that went down, you start to see Norman slowly but surely converting back to his old ways. And to know, and part of that is his fault, but the other half is people who basically, again, was seeking revenge, was opening up Pandora's box, and not only end up turning Norman mad again in this film, and you sort of see it, but it actually led to their own destruction. I'm not going to go into ending mode here. I'm actually going to keep it as minimum in terms of describing films, because I actually felt that it's better that way. Keep the timeline time in a minimum, and pretty much I felt that this is one of those films that you have to see for yourself to understand where I'm coming from with this. But this is the theme of the film, and it actually worked well with this film. The ending, not gonna tell you how it is, especially if you have seen it. But needless to say, once that ending came out, I actually said two things. I said this is not going to be the end, and sure enough, after that whole incident, it wasn't the end, just the beginning, which again led to the third film. Anthony Perkins did a great job with this movie in terms of his role. He went right back in his role, and even though he's not a young man anymore in this film, he's more older and pretty much, I think, a little bit taller. He actually played it as if he never left the role. He really did play that character, and as crazy as it may sound, you actually wanted to know what happened to this character. You wanted to know how he was going to cope with the stuff that he was going through. You know what he had done in the past, but you also know in this situation there was a lot of stuff that was happening that led to his downfall. I really was stunned at how well written this character was. I really was, and I was actually was looking forward to seeing how this would conclude, because I thought 3 was actually, well, at least in my opinion, 3 was, in my opinion, the more concluded factor of the series. Let's go to the pacing. The pacing was fine. Wasn't great. In some spots it just slowed down. That's because of a lot of dialogue exchange, and it pretty much slowed the film down, especially with the scene with the young girl and Norman actually exchanging words, exchanging dialogue. I didn't really care about her falling in love with him. It was actually she was actually growing feelings for him, which I didn't really care for, and I knew just from where this film was heading that there was no way in hell this was going to end happily, and I didn't really much care for that. But for the most part, the pacing was fine. As for horror, I will say there was only one true jump scare in the film, and I'll say it was a scene where the young girl was looking in the wall. She saw somebody there. At first, she didn't know it was Norman, but when she realized Norman was still downstairs, where she actually heard somebody upstairs, that's when she realized somebody else was in the house. When you saw that eye, of like, oh. Not good. But not too many jump scares. This film really played on the who done it side more than just the scare factor. I'm fine with that. I'm actually perfectly all right with that. It did its job. It actually kept me wanting to know more, wanted to see more. Other than that, I think the film's score Not the strongest from the late Jerry Goldsmith, but it's definitely one of the scores I actually did enjoy, and it's one of the films that I actually felt that it matches with the tone that was going with. Other than that, I think it's one of the better sequels. I think this is a sequel that caught me by surprise. I actually enjoyed it when I saw it with my mother. When I saw it by myself again, when I rented out the free trilogies, it still holds up. It's actually a very well written movie, and to me, it stands by itself. It's not trying to compete with Albert Hitchcock's masterpiece. It's pretty much a standalone film, and because of that, even though it still keeps that tied with the first film, the way they did it made it be enjoyable. Made it say, "Hey, look, we're not Albert Hitchcock, but we can still make a film that people can get invested in," and that's the thing that really worked with this. So, what's my rating for this film? The rating for this film is 3.5. Yeah, I actually enjoyed this film a lot. And for those who think I'm the people who are shocked that I actually gave this film 3.5, when this film came out and was released, this film was given 3.5 by a lot of critics back then, and pretty much for the same reason I'm giving it. I thought this film was well done for what they was going for, and to me, this was one of the better suspense films that came out that year. So yeah, it deserves that rating. Again, I didn't have a much. I have my complaints are very very few. If in case you haven't noticed, I haven't said too any bad things about the film because it really was an enjoyable suspense. Kept me on the edge of my seat kind of movie. The only problem was, and I said this, wasn't too many reaction scares or jump scares, if you want to call it. It didn't work on the horror. It's not a bloody film. It's pretty much surprisingly that they kept that away from that. You would think they actually would step up the blood in this, but no, they actually kept it more on that suspense trace, and I appreciate that. So that's pretty much it, guys. So this is one of many reviews to come. Sticking with the suspense horror theme. So look for that one coming. And until next time, J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.